Your friend can come in too. Do you mind if his friend takes this seat? Thank you. Here, we can get this one right here. Thanks.
I'll get her.
Oh, I make a mess everywhere I go. Yeah. So I'll tell you a few words about why our family's in this, and then I want to open this up and hear from you. My parents came to this country 40 years ago with no money in search of opportunity. And in a single generation, I've gone on to found multiple successful companies. Founded a multi-billion-dollar biotech business. I founded an asset management firm called Strive that competes directly against the likes of BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard, who are abusing the money of everyday citizens to push these environmental and social agendas. I created an alternative to that, saying that we'll advance products and services for profit. That was my career. I did it while marrying my wife, Apurva. She is a throat surgeon at Ohio State, saving lives at the cancer hospital. That's where she was yesterday, which is why she's not here today. Raising our two boys. One is 3.5 years old, and one is a year and a half old. So I promise you we're not doing this out of convenience. They'll be here with us in the first 2 weeks of January, which I'm looking forward to spending more time with our boys in the new year here in Iowa. Following our faith in God. That's the American dream. And I'm worried that American dream isn't going to exist for our kids and their generation unless we step up and actually do something about it. We're in the middle of a war in this country. And I don't use that term lightly. I mean it in a serious sense. It's a war between those of us who love this country and a fringe minority who hates our nation and what we stand for. It's a war between the managerial class, the permanent state, the mother of all bureaucracies, and the everyday citizen. A war between what many will call the Great Reset, an assault on U.S. sovereignty, and what I call the Great Uprising, which says hell no to that vision. And I think we need a commander-in-chief now who's going to lead us to victory in this war. I think it's going to take somebody who understands that we're not working with a lot of time. If my kids are in high school before we get this right, I don't think we have a country left. I think it's going to take somebody who can't be captured by the special interests that have ruined our politics. Every politician now anymore is dancing to the tune of their biggest donor. In my case, that biggest donor is me. I'm not going to be somebody's circus monkey. I'm not going to be somebody's pawn on a chessboard. I'd rather lose the election and speak the truth than to win by playing some fake political snakes and ladders. But I think now more than ever, it's going to take somebody from the next generation to reach and lead a new generation of Americans that is lost and begging us for direction and purpose and meaning. And our Republican Party, we fail to do it. We're just sitting here criticizing the other side. Biden bad, we say. That's not an agenda. We have to offer a vision of our own. What do we actually stand for in the year 2024? What does it mean to be a Republican? What does it mean to be an American? To me, it means we believe in the ideals of 1776, the ideals that set this country into motion: free speech, meritocracy, the rule of law, the fact that a nation without borders is not a nation, and we understand that. Self-governance over aristocracy, the basic rules of the road. That's what's at stake, not just in this election. It's what's at stake right now for our country. We use words like America First at times to describe ourselves. I'm an America First conservative. What does that mean? Right, to put this country first, we have to rediscover what this country is. I'll tell you, being America First means two things. You'll have a choice to make in about, 17 days? America First doesn't belong to one man. It's not what comes out of a given person's mouth on a given day. I respect Donald Trump for what he did for this country, but to take this movement to the next level, we're going to have a movement that lasts beyond just the period we're in. That 250 years in is what got us. George Washington, he was the first America First conservative. We got in 250 years in. This is about the next 250 years of our country. Two principles to America First. I'll close with this and then we'll open this up. The first is the people who we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually run the government. Not the shadow government in the deep state. If there's one thing I get done as your next president, we will shut down that shadow government. That's the war I'm going to wage, not some pointless war in Ukraine or Iraq 2.0. No, it is the war on the shadow government, the permanent state in the United States. We're going to get in there and shut it down. I'll lay off 75% of the federal bureaucrats by the end of my first term. We'll shut down government agencies that should no longer exist. From the FBI to the ATF to the CDC to the U.S. Department of Education, we will get in there and shut them down. Incremental reform doesn't work. We've learned that. You have the Republicans will say, hey, maybe we can fire Christopher Wray. That doesn't work. It's going to be James Comey 2.0 then. You have to shut it down. Put Betsy DeVos on top of the Department of Education. Say, figure it out. That doesn't work. Shut it down and return that $80 billion back to parents across this country who deserve to choose where they send their kids to school. Don't just use last year's budget as the baseline, which is based on the prior year's budget, which is based on the prior year's budget, all of which are corrupt. No, start with zero as the baseline and ask what's actually necessary. That's how I've run my businesses, zero-based budgeting. It's how many CEOs run their businesses. It's how we need to run the federal government in this country. 8-year term limits for every federal bureaucrat. If I can't work for you for more than 8 years, neither should the bureaucrats who are reporting into me either. That is how you actually drain the swamp, actually get the job done. That's the first thing in our movement. We, the people, create a government who's going to be accountable to us, not the other way around. The people who we elect to run the government shall once again be the ones who actually run the government. And the second thing is those people we put in that government, they owe a moral duty, including me as your next president, a sole moral duty to the citizens of this nation, not another one. America First doesn't come with an asterisk. As a father, my moral duty is to my family, and I won't be shaken in that. As your next president, my sole moral duty is to you, the citizens of the United States of America. And my foreign policy there is clear. Keep us out of World War III. Declare economic independence from communist China. We can't depend on an enemy for our modern way of life. And then use our own military and national defense spending to, here's the most radical idea of all, to defend our own homeland in this country. If there are a bunch of 3 million Chinese on the West Coast invading from the western border, we'd call it an invasion. We got 8 million that have come across our own southern border. It is an invasion. Use our military to secure our southern border. I'll get that done as your commander-in-chief. End birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal migrants. Anybody who's in this country illegally will be returned to their country of origin. Not a dime of foreign aid going to another country when we got a national debt crisis of our own in this country. $34 trillion. Young people in this room, you got about $200,000 of debt on your shoulders that you didn't sign up for. That's wrong, and it's immoral for me to be a leader of this country. Come on in, ma'am. You can come in. Yep, we got a seat for you. Come on in. You got a seat for you. Thank you. I appreciate you. What's your name?
Jane.
Jane. Well, you know what? I was going on and on anyway. Let's stop and open this up for some questions. Jane, we were talking about what it means to be America First, and we're going to take this movement to the next level, and so that's what we're going to do. So you have a choice to make in about 20 days. Give me the hard ones. I'm going to sit across the table from Xi Jinping in about a year and a half. I can handle the hard ones. So open it up, and sir, we'll start with you.
You talk about straightening out the border.
Yep.
Let's be specific.
Oh, yeah.
How are you going to do it?
I'll tell you exactly how. Let's work from south to north. South starts south of Mexico. So I think the number, they don't have a good handle of the numbers, but I've studied this a lot. I've been to both borders. First of all, let me say, I'm always going to say the borders of this country. People don't pay attention to the northern border. We've had more people crossing the northern border in the last year illegally than the last 12 years combined. And I've been to that. It's wide open. More fentanyl crossed the northern border last year, enough to kill 3 million Americans. So it's not just the southern border. But that being said, for the purpose of your response, I'll focus on the southern border, and you get the same principles will apply on the north. Start south of Mexico. 80% of the people crossing in Eagle Pass and other places, they don't even come from Mexico. They come from nations south of Mexico. So I'll freeze every penny of our national debt that's being spent on giving money to those countries and instead require each of those countries to build their own border wall all the way from Venezuela to the northern border of Mexico. See, that's actually where the problem begins. The mass flow of migrants. Put an end to that. Next. Yes, complete both walls. That's the easy part. But the harder part is we have to use our own military to move them to the southern border. We got 40,000 troops sitting in Germany. Why? They don't even spend 2% of their GDP on military spending, which is their NATO commitment, because they know we got 40,000 of our own sitting there. Pull our troops back from places like that, move them along our own southern border and our northern border too. Then we send a signal. Part of this is a signal we send to those migrants. You got our military station on the border. Now we've sealed that border. Some practical things that I won't even get into the details of. You asked for details, so I'll give you a couple. Aquatic barriers. They float in the Rio Grande. They work. They're cheap. They're really cheap. They're mobile. Texas is trying to use them. Our federal government's stopping them. Not because they don't work, but because they do work. That's the heart of this. This is intentional. So the country that put a man on the moon can seal that southern border. Now you get to the best border policies of all. Eliminate the incentives to be in this country illegally in the first place. Eliminate them. Not a dime of federal funding. And sometimes people like me use this word, federal funding, and it sounds like it's somebody else's money. I shouldn't say it that way. Not a dime of our money is going to fund a federal sanctuary city to break the rule of law. That's where our taxpayer money is going. We're $34 trillion in the hole. They're giving our money to cities to pay for the breakage of the rule of law. That ends. And then I'm going to swear an oath to the Constitution, and here's a novel idea. Keep the oath. Read the 14th Amendment. What does it say? All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, those are the key words, shall be citizens. That means the kid of an illegal migrant does not enjoy birthright citizenship in this country. January 20th, 2025, when I take office, that day forward, nobody born in this country of illegals will enjoy citizenship in the United States. I don't need a new law for that. That's what the Constitution says. Now we've eliminated the incentives to be here. I'll go one step further, because this is the hard question people don't like to answer, and you deserve an answer. What do we do with the 8 million who are already here? Yes. There's one answer. If you are in this country illegally, you must be returned to your country of origin, period. You ask me how. That's the main thing. People say, well, how do you do that? There's only 6,000 ICE agents, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement agents. It's true. How could they go after 8 million? Answer. You need a president who knows the law once and for all, and they're not going to be duped. They try to dupe people who, going with sharp elbows, but you don't know the Constitution yourself, they're going to throw you off your tilt, not me. It's 287G. It's a section of the law. It basically allows any ICE agent to delegate their warrant service power to local law enforcement. It's existing law. We don't need new laws. I've talked to law enforcement across this country. They're standing and willing to do it. Just takes a president with a spine to direct ICE to do it. Now you have 1 million people. Yes, the country that put a man on the moon, again, can get that done. So by March of 2025, 2 months after I take office, our southern border is sealed. Our northern border is on its way to being sealed. By December of 2025, most of our mass deportations are underway. We're well underway to restoring the rule of law in the United States of America. And I say this as the kid of legal immigrants to this country, okay? It's not xenophobic. In fact, I think it's disrespectful of the people who do come to this country illegally to say this is part of the same issue. It's offensive. So nobody's going to call me xenophobic or racist as I do it. This is me swearing as your next president an oath to the Constitution, and it's my job to keep it. And yes, it might be nice to have a president for once that when we swear an oath to the Constitution has actually read it. That's my duty, and I'm going to keep it. Hope that answers your question, sir. Thank you. You. Thank you, sir.
The January 6th prisoners
Yep.
have been in the gulag.
That's what it is.
Like a couple of years with no trial and no charges, maybe.
Yep.
And it's the justice.
It's not justice.
No,
It's injustice. We don't have a justice system. We have an injustice system right now. So I'm the only candidate who has said this to you with clarity. Any peaceful protester on January 6th will, on day one, not in the last day in office, January 20th, 2025, will get a pardon. Guys like Owen Schroyer, who had no crime other than just saying in a megaphone, 1776. That's what he said. He didn't even enter the Capitol. Convicted. Douglas Mackey made a meme poking fun at Hillary Clinton supporters when Christina Wong, a Clinton supporter, did the same thing to Trump supporters. She's a comedian. She gets laughed at. She gets viral views. This man gets a prison sentence. This is not justice. And I want you to pause on this one. I don't mean to be, it's not me boasting or anything. It's just the truth, because you have a choice to make. Why am I the only candidate in this race who can tell you that I'm going to do it? The only candidate in this race who could tell you Ronna McDaniel needs to resign after 5 failed years as a chairwoman of the RNC. The only person, I know it's not affecting this part of the state as much, but other parts it is. The carbon capture pipeline, the CO2 pipeline that they're building across the state using eminent domain to violate the private property rights of innocent farmers in this state and soon to be others like it. Why am I the only person who can tell you these things? I told you it's because every politician is dancing to the tune of their biggest donor. And in my case, that biggest donor is me. I don't report to them. I report to you, the people of this country. And so day one, it'll be the peaceful January 6 protesters to Donald Trump, to Julian Assange, to Douglas Mackey, to Ross Ulbricht, to countless others. Day one, they will get a pardon on my watch. And I'll tell you this too. You want to save Trump, you vote for me. They will not let this man get anywhere near the White House. Open your eyes, people. If I wasn't running in this race, I'd be voting for Trump, no doubt about it. I've been a big supporter of his. I've been a big supporter of his even while I'm running for president. I've been, I said I would take my name off the ballot in Colorado and in Maine if that's what it came to. If they take his name off the ballot, that's the right thing. I called on every other Republican to do the same thing. There's brazen election interference going on right now in our own GOP primary. There's stuff they're doing to me. I mean, I'll tell you about the mainstream media and their games they're playing, but that's forget about that. The big one, they're trying to take Donald Trump off the ballot. I said, if every other Republican also takes our name off the ballot in Colorado or Maine, then we nullify their effect on our primary. So I said I would, and I'll keep my pledge. I asked Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley and Chris Christie and whoever these other people are to do the same thing. They refuse to do it. They need to collect their delegates, they say. So the cancer really isn't just in the Democratic Party. It's in our own party. That's what we need to wake up and see. The Republican Party does not appreciate me saying that I'll pardon peaceful January 6 protesters. That's not something that the Republican Party wants us saying. But it takes, if you want somebody who's going to get in there and actually face down the deep state and speak truth to power, vote for the candidate who's going to speak the truth to you. And if you have some hope that they're going to let Donald Trump anywhere near the White House, think again. Open your eyes, people. They are selling us the rope today that they will use to hang us tomorrow. Don't fall for their trick. You got the future of America first standing right here. We owe it to this country to make sure this movement, our movement, does not end with this man. It started in 1776 with George Washington, who was the first America First conservative. We got 250 years and more yet to go. So and I'll pardon him on day one. We love the man because he got this fight started, but it is our job to finish it. And at a certain point, you become constrained yourself. You get to be an outsider once. And from January 6th to the CO2 pipeline, there's a reason I'm the only candidate who's able to take this on. I'm in this because I believe it's my moral duty to take the America First movement to the next level. And I'm asking you to open your eyes and not fall into the trap that the other side has laid for us in the process. But hope that answers your question, sir. Go right to you, young man, and then we'll go to this gentleman right here, and then we'll come to the back. Okay, you can go ahead. No, it's okay. You just go ahead and start, and then we'll go to the young man with the mic. I could tell that man doesn't need a mic. You keep the mic. That man had a built-in one. Like me.
Military and a retired police officer, I love your answer on immigration.
Thank you.
I think the troops would be more than happy to go down and help secure.
They're waiting to. I've talked to many young people serving in the military. They would rather be doing that than where they're deployed.
Absolutely. My question is twofold. I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment. First of all, what is your opinion on coming up with a federal concealed carry law instead of having all
Against.
different laws in different states?
Against. I also think many of the laws in the states are unconstitutional, too. The states don't get an exemption from the Second Amendment.
I was talking to a gentleman yesterday that was from Connecticut about their gun laws, and I've decided I'll never live in Connecticut.
Well, I think a lot of them are unconstitutional. They just need to be challenged in court.
The second point is, let's say, God forbid, the liberals bring a bill and put it on President Ramaswamy's desk that says we want to outlaw AR-15s or anything that looks scary. What are you going to do?
Yeah, what they call the assault weapons ban.
Right.
I mean, it's like they don't even know the characterization. It's not even actually, they don't even know what they're talking about. It's not even banning the weapons they think they have in mind. It's just it's a cosmetic thing with the assault weapons ban. So I spoke, I've given some speeches on this earlier this year. Some people challenge me, well, what does AR-15 stand for? It stands for freedom, actually. That's what it stands for. Second Amendment is the one amendment that protects all the other ones. It's the one that gives the teeth to the First Amendment. The First Amendment is the most important one. It says you get to speak your mind freely and you get to worship freely. But you don't get the First Amendment unless you have the second. China offers you, their Bill of Rights is so long, it's like they think, oh, America only has 10. They have like 1,000 different articles in Iran, too. They don't have a Second Amendment. Without that, none of the rest matter. Even history teaches us. Black Americans did not enjoy their freedoms in the United States after the Civil War until they got their Second Amendment rights secured. Actually, this was the exchange I had with Don Lemon earlier in this campaign, which made his head explode, and then he lost his job over that. But because for these people, just got to understand how they think. Civil rights bad, civil rights good, Second Amendment bad. And he's saying they go together? He lost his mind over this. But that's what we have to understand. It's actually, this is the amendment that actually gives us every one of our other rights. And so, silly stuff like the ATF, the bump stock ban. I mean, what is that? It was just a made-up rule. They're just writing it from the hip. Congress never even passed that. That's unconstitutional. And so when I say we're shutting down agencies, I said we'll shut down the FBI, the ATF, the CDC, the U.S. Department of Education. The ATF's on that list for a reason. Most of their behaviors are unconstitutional. That ends on my watch. We're shutting down the ATF, and any law that's passed will be pursuant to the highest law of the land, the U.S. Constitution. That's the answer to the question. I think it's cut and dry. Now, what do you do with the violence epidemic? You're a cop. You understand this. Thank you for your service, sir. Don't remove guns from law-abiding citizens. Remove psychiatrically ill and dangerous people from their communities. Have the courage to do that. Bring back the psychiatric health institutions to deal with the mental health epidemic in this country. My mother was a geriatric psychiatrist. She used to work in the VA treating veterans with PTSD. We're not doing enough to address that mental health epidemic. Young people are lost, hungry for purpose and meaning. Fill that vacuum with our vision of what it means to be an American instead of then teaching them to go to Ben & Jerry's and order a cup of ice cream with some social justice sprinkles on top. That's what we teach them to do today. You don't satisfy a moral hunger with fast food. We got to step up and do the real thing. But this cosmetic nonsense of pretending like this was actually the cause was an instrument rather than the mental health epidemic that causes people to misuse those instruments. That's how we actually protect our children, protect the next generation. I said we'd shut down the Department of Education. For 25% or less of that budget, you could put 3 to 4 armed security guards in every school in this country. That's how you protect our children. So do the real thing, not the fake thing. That's where I'm at on it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, first off, I just wanted to say I'm a huge fan of you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Jake Paul's boxing fight.
Oh, nice.
And I'm glad that you're in the ring fighting for America.
I appreciate it, brother.
Second off, as someone who's graduating college in May, I've dealt firsthand with how expensive college tuition is. And I'm also quite worried about the housing market and how expensive that is
Yes.
after graduation. So I'm wondering how you combat those two things for the next generation of America.
Thank you, man. And you deserve to ask that question. So first of all, college has exploded in cost in part because of federal subsidies that have bloated the managerial class, the associate deans of God knows what, diversity, this, that, the other thing. My first book was called Woke Inc. This is a few years ago, exposing the wokeism spread in this country before people were paying attention to that. One of the things we found is the university systems that had the most proliferation of those middle management. I mean, and it turns out the swamp doesn't just live in government. It lives in every sphere of our lives, in our universities too. They're the ones that saw the biggest tuition increases. A university like Purdue that hasn't actually seen that has had its tuition stay not adjusted for inflation, absolute terms flat over 10 years. So this is achievable. But that's part of how you make college more affordable. Some of this is, a lot of people should be able to pursue options other than college, 1-year or 2-year programs. I mean, I went to 4-year college, and that was the right choice for me. But my path can't be the only path. We need 1-year or 2-year paths for vocational education for people for whom that's a better choice. And then as it just relates to the broader cost, housing, energy, et cetera, a lot of the regulations coming from the federal government are what's driving inflation in this country. Energy costs are spiking because we have constrained drilling and fracking. Rescind those unconstitutional regulations on the energy sector. They didn't come from Congress, so the good news is I can do that as your U.S. president. Negate them because they're unconstitutional. It goes back to swearing an oath to the Constitution and keeping it. So we drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear. That brings down the cost of energy, brings down the cost of everything else. We have land use restrictions, regulations, that stop people from building new housing or plots of certain land. A lot of young people want not necessarily a giant house, but a smaller starter home. Those aren't being built today because of those regulations. Rescind them. And I don't know if you're an economics or business major or not, but okay, all right. I'm wondering there. You're paying attention to the economy. What's the laws of supply and demand? Increase the supply of housing, that brings down the cost. That grows the economy and makes it more affordable. For that matter, the same thing with labor. Unlock the supply of labor. Stop paying people more money to stay at home using our money to do it than for them to go to work. Put people back to work in this country. That's how you grow this economy. That's how you have small businesses like this one that can fill those open positions. So for me, I mean, a lot of this is second nature. I've built multi-billion-dollar businesses. I think it takes a CEO in the White House to get this done, but also somebody who understands the law and the Constitution to see this through. So we owe it to your generation to make sure you don't have that $200,000 of somebody else's debt, national debt on your shoulder. Top that off with somebody else's gun and over your shoulder in a trench fighting World War III. Those are the two things I can promise your generation I will keep you out of. And you want to fight that national debt without reducing Social Security or Medicare, which is what half the Republican Party wants to do? I talk about America First. You want to know what America Last is? It's basically the Republican Party's platform in many cases. Cut Social Security and Medicare to ship more money to Ukraine. That's what most Republicans want to do. Forget the Ukraine war. We're going to end that in reasonable terms, negotiate a peace treaty. But here, addressing our national debt, I'll tell you how to do it. Get the oil and gas out from underneath our ground, sell it, buy down $8 trillion of our national debt, avoid the Ukraine, which is Iraq 2.0, and the kinds of mistakes that added $7 trillion to our national debt from Iraq and Afghanistan. Fire 75% of the federal bureaucrats. Our national debt problem's behind us. We haven't touched Social Security and Medicare. And since you're a business major, I'll add this one more bit. I'll tell you, we could actually increase Social Security benefits. We should. Many people can't afford to make their ends meet right now because it hasn't kept up with inflation. Here's how you do it without touching or adding to the national debt. If when the people who are collecting Social Security were your age, if we had allowed them in the Social Security Trust Fund to just have that invested in the same way your financial advisor would tell you, diversify it across stocks and treasuries and bonds, the average person collecting $1,800 per month would be collecting $18,000 per month in Social Security. Think about an $18,000 a month check in your mailbox. It might make a bit of a difference. That's government malpractice of the highest order. It's going to take a CEO in the White House to fix it. You have my word that we will. Thank you, man. Last question to you, sir. You get the final word.
A few weeks ago, I heard that the illegals are able to use the VA system.
And our own veterans aren't.
23 and a half years total service. I'm not able to use the system. Okay?
I know it well,
I'm
sir.
a disabled veteran. Sorry, ladies, this pisses me off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because I know that ICE doesn't have the money to reimburse the VA system.
They don't.
They don't.
They don't.
The funds aren't there. And for them to be able to go to
It's
the
wrong.
VA, but our veterans not be able to go to the VA is a slap in
It's
the
sick.
face.
It's disgusting. A country that doesn't stand for its own veterans who have served its own country is not a nation. It's a plot of land that's pretending to be a nation. We have a crisis of national pride. I mean, people your age, sir. What's your name? Adam's age. Many young people, they're saying we don't want to serve in the military. We have a 25% recruitment deficit. Part of the reason is they're not stupid. They say if this is how you treat your veterans on the back end, why on earth would I serve on the front end? So we've offered comprehensive veterans policy. I'm the only candidate to do this, right? I mean, it's not part of the standard talking points. It doesn't grab headlines, but it's details on how we deal with this. I've been a CEO. You know who sets the pay of a CEO of a public company or the CFO? It's the shareholders. I want to treat our veterans as the shareholders of the VA. Every veteran in this country is the one who actually gets to set the pay of the people who are actually running the show and hiring or firing the people at the top. That'll make that system much more accountable to our own veterans. And some basic things we can do for our veterans who come back from combat roles. Give them 6-week paid decompression buffers before you thrust them back into civilian life. You bring down PTSD by 80% that way. Give them privacy restrictions so they're not tagged with the red flag law, which many of them are then afraid to report their PTSD. Basic things we could do. I think we should have medical choice for veterans who don't have it today for Schedule I substances instead of fentanyl and suicide, which they're choosing today. I think veterans' benefits should not be subject to taxation. Anybody who's actually being paid while they're in the U.S. military, anybody serving, that shouldn't be taxed. These are people who are serving the country. That's a tiny, doesn't affect our federal budget. It's like it doesn't even matter. You know, say we stand with our troops. When Joe Biden says that, or anybody, frankly, any politician in both parties says, shut up. You don't mean it. Actions speak louder than words. That's where I land. And so we have to actually stand with voting with our feet and our actions, not just the lip service that actually is failing to stand for those who have served this country. And that's what we have right now, is we have a crisis of national pride in the United States. We've lost our sense of who we even are. People my age, I'm 38 years old. I'm the youngest person ever to run for U.S. president in our party. I'll be your youngest president ever when elected. Our generation, we are lost. We are hungry for purpose and meaning and identity. And the left is very good at this. They'll fill that vision with race and gender and sexuality and climate. And here we are as Republicans sitting around just criticizing that vision without offering a vision of our own. That's why I'm in this race. I'm in this race to lead us to something, back to our vision of what it means to be American, what it means to be a citizen of this nation. To put America first, we now have to rediscover what America is. And I think that's on one hand going to take an outsider, willing to break glass, willing to break the system when necessary, but also an outsider who knows and understands the law and the Constitution of this country. And so I come back to what I said earlier. You all have a choice to make on January 15th. I'm asking you to take about 30 minutes of your time to save this country. Tell 10 people in this community what we talked about. Bring them too. We don't have a lot of time before we get this done, and that's what I'm asking for. And if you do your part, I'm going to do mine. I can't leave you hanging, sir. They're about to drag me out, but I can't leave you hanging with your hand up. So let me know. Last question. No, you get it. You get it. We'll give you the final word, and then we're going to wrap this.
How will you handle trade with China?
Well, here's the answer. I'll give you the short answer on this. I'll give you a long speech elsewhere, but I think I should bring this up. Thomas Jefferson, you want to know how old he was when he wrote the Declaration of Independence? He was 33. 33. A young man. I'm an old man by comparison. The Declaration of Independence that he would sign today is our Declaration of Independence from Communist China. We can't depend on our enemy for our modern way of life. So I'd sit down with Xi Jinping and say, after we've done our own homework on beginning the onshoring process to the United States, open up relationships even with Japan and India and South Korea to fill in some of the gaps. The reality is I'm not a magician. I want to onshore as much as possible, but we got to combine that with actually closing some of the other gaps. Then to sit across the table from Xi Jinping and saying we're cutting the cord. We're done. We will not depend on you from providing our military equipment, our F-35 jets, for God's sakes. Most of our military equipment is made in China. Why on earth do we have a military if its equipment production depends on our enemy to provide it? That doesn't make any sense. Our pharmaceuticals, 95% of the medicines in your medicine cabinet come from China. The same country that unleashed hell on the world with a man-made pandemic in a lab. The same country that's lacing the illegal pills coming across the southern border of Mexico with fentanyl. What do you think they're going to do to the legal pharmaceutical supply chain? So we got to think clearly, people. You asked the right question. I will declare economic independence from China. That's going to actually put China in a much tougher spot than us. So then they're going to finally come back on their knees, having to play by the same set of rules, and then we'll consider it on our terms. That's what it takes, a president with a spine to sit across the table from Xi Jinping. They got a Chinese word. It's called baizuo. I don't know if you're familiar with it. B-A-I-Z-U-O. It's a Mandarin word. It refers to progressive white people in the United States, and they use it to laugh at us. It's like the Soviets' equivalent. They had a term in the Cold War called useful idiot. That's what China says in Mandarin about us. They're laughing at us, a climate agenda that's shackling the U.S. while leaving China untouched. We're done with that. That ends on my watch. We'll declare independence from the climate cult just as we declare independence from China. It's how we bring back production to the United States, and the trade relationship and the trade balance sorts itself out. And if we do these things, guys, I mean this. We've had a little bit of a heavy conversation here. But I want to leave you with this. I don't think I could tell you this 8 years from now. I don't even think I could tell you this 4 years from now. But if we get this right now, I mean, the interest payments on our national debt, if those ever become the largest line item in our federal budget, that's about 5 years from now, we're done. We're in quicksand then. But now I can tell you this. If we get this right now, we don't have to be this nation in decline. We don't have to be at the end of the ancient Roman Empire. I think as a nation right now, we're really a little young, actually. That's the way I'd like to see it. Going through our own version of our adolescence. Figuring out who we're going to be when we grow up. And when you view it that way, it makes sense again. You go through that adolescence, you go through that identity crisis. You lose your way a little bit. You do some stupid things. I don't know about you, Adam, but I did. But we are stronger for it when we get to our adulthood on the other side. We're 250 years in. We will not be the generation. Let us not be the generation that ends what our founding fathers began. We owe it to them. You have a choice to make on January 15th. I told you there's a trap they're leading you into. Do not fall into their trap. Think for yourself, even if it's counterintuitive. I'm trusting you guys. Our founding fathers are trusting us to see past this, to make sure we have 250 years left to go. And if we do, I believe we still can be a nation in our ascent. I'm not going to tell you that it's morning in America right now, because it's not. But it can be. I can't look a young person in the eye and tell them the American dream is alive and well right now. It's not. It's alive and hanging on for life support. But it can be. And so if you all do your part, that's what I'm asking for. Bring 10 people with you to the Iowa caucus. Tell them what we talked about here. I promise you, my family and I, we will do ours to make sure, not in some cheesy politician way, but in a true way, make sure that our country's best days are actually ahead of us. That we'll look our kids in the eye and mean it when we tell them you get ahead in this country with your own hard work, your own commitment, your own dedication, and that you know what? You are free to speak your minds at every step of the way. That is the American dream. That is what we are running to. And with your help, that is what we will revive to save this great country. Thank you for coming today, guys. God bless you and your families. And may God bless our United States of America. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
This is our moment.
Thank you. Thank
With
you.
your help on January 15th.
Good luck, sir.
What's your name?
When we
Jane.
win here,
Thank you, Jane.
What's your name?
I'm Vivek.
Iowa
It's good to see
we
you.
will make this
I know
man
your name.
Thank you,
our
Dan. I
next
appreciate you
Awesome.
being here.
I love all your ideas.
Thank you. We're going to turn them into
Godspeed
reality.
to help our country.
We
To
will.
you.
We will. We're going to do. We'll not stop till we get it done. Okay?
Good.
You have my word on that.
Location is
Thank Thank you.
And
What's your
we
name,
would
sir?
like
Larry.
to be a precinct
It's good to
caucus
see you, Larry.
Thank you,
sharing
thank you,
these
thank you.
Means a lot.
inspirations
Thank you.
With people in your local precinct caucus.
Thank you
Just
for being
check
here.
the Become a Precinct
Why
captain.
doesn't anybody
and
talk
our
about
team will help
abortion?
make sure that
Dr.
happens.
Fritz.
Thank you.
Oh, if you asked me, I'll
Thank
tell you about it.
Thank you.
Well, Stand for Life, but I say put more responsibility on men. If a man is confirmed with the genetic paternity test to be the father, the woman should be able to make him responsible for raising the child. That's what I say.
I think a man should have a choice, of say, in whether a woman
Yes,
can abortion.
we need actual equality. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And speaking as a man
Yeah.
and a father, that speaks to me too.
Yeah.
That's what it means to actually stand for life. Right?
Thank
So
you.
thank you. Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
It's nice meeting you guys.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you. Oh, we're late?
Yep.
Where are we headed? Very late.
Pascal's
Oh,
Pizza in
Pascal's
Humboldt.
Pizza in Humboldt. Okay, they're
Oh,
gonna
Pasquale's.
Pasquale's. Good.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. Good to see you guys. Thank you. Thank you guys. Spread the message in this community.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate what you said today.
Appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
I just read a quote the other day, not mine, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's something like, unless you change direction, you will get to where you're going.
Okay.
I thought that was really like
That'll stick with me.
poignant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. That speaks to me. That speaks to me. Yes, yeah, let's do one right here before we leave. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Take care, guys. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Yeah, no, totally, I get it.
Sir, can I get a quick picture?
Yeah. Thank you for turn down a veteran.
Appreciate it, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good
Okay.
luck, I'm gonna caucus for you.
Means a lot, man. We got your back, okay? And your former colleagues too. I know you said you're retired, but your colleagues, we got them.
First-time
There's-
caucuser.
Oh, good. There's a little sign-in sheet in the door just inside there. I just was going to leave it. Oh, thank you. What's your name, sir?
Bill Albers.
It's good to meet you, Bill. Thank you for being here. Is this your family? Or?
No, no.
Okay, got it. Let me get this pen to work, young man. How old are you, buddy?
11.
Proud of you for being here.
Thank you. Can I get your picture with
Yes, would love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very
sir.
much.
I appreciate your support. We're going to do our part, okay? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, last one, man. Good to see you, buddy. Adam.
Sorry, guys, we have to get going.
Thank you.
thank you
Thank
very
you, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Two old ladies. You got time
Oh,
for two
gosh.
old
Cannot
ladies?
say no to that.
Oh,
I got it. There you go. Oh, there you go.
Hate for that picture. Don't show that
Come
to
on
anybody.
in. Now you got it.
you've
Thank
got
you.
the best smile of everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We're going to do our part.
All right.
You spread this message for us. Thank you, ladies. It's good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Hey, thanks for being here.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.